You might think that Nurgle would appreciate a good belching, but not when it's filled with lead. Today, replay from Glorious Feeder featuring Ogres versus Nurgle. Triple lead belcher opening with 3 Iron Guts to back them up, some Trappers, and some more Noblars. Slaughtermaster of the Great Maw, of course, being the Lord. We've got 2 Mournfang Cavalry, 2 Iron Fists, and 3 Iron Fists, 3 regular Bowls, 3 Saber Tusks, 3 Trappers, and another regular Noblar. Exalted Great Unclean One for Nurgle's Lord with 2 Exalted Plague Bearers and 5 regular Plague Bearers. That is an all-in inventory build. If I've ever seen one. 2 Rotflies in reserve. We've got 4 Toads and a single Forsaken, 4 Furies, and of course 5 Nurglings. So let's get started on the Mountains of Morn. Ogres defending on their home turf. Leadbelchers definitely potent, especially against an opening like this with just a bunch of really slow infantry. Obviously, being Ogres, Leadbelchers are reasonably quick. They can kite pretty effectively. A lot of you guys who played Warhammer 2 will be familiar with Ushabti Greatbows. They're very similar units. 42 speed means they're fast enough to get away from most infantry, but they certainly are vulnerable to get encountered by cavalry. Iron Fists are a decent choice here. The extra armor does help against Nurgle, but in terms of domination, I might cut 2 of these and go with some additional bowls just for extra early capture weight. And then maybe take one of the Iron Guts in reserve or something. I'm not really sure, but I do like some Iron Guts in this matchup, certainly for the armor. Not that the armor piercing is necessarily necessary, but it is certainly helpful. So right now, the walking plagues, not dead, but should be dead. Probably wish they were dead. They are slowly going to be making their way across the battlefield here, getting their positions ready. Now, in a situation like this, see that Nurgle's actually split pushing, which is unusual. But what this also means is you don't necessarily, Glorious Feeder right now is going to commit, looks like maybe to try and take out these center units. I don't know. He could also concentrate on one side and just, blast wherever the Great and Clean One is not. It looks like he's going to do that, redeploy here over on the side. He might have been able to get some good blob shots here in the center, though. Hard to say. It looks like instead committing over here. We've got some Furies rushing in. The Furies will actually do some damage, but not wanting to necessarily just throw themselves away immediately. Looks like they're not going to charge. But Leadbelchers do start to respond. They're going to sort of form up here. They're not in the best position. This is one map where it can be a little bit tricky. Even though it's the Ogre's home turf, the line of sight blockages are very real, so operating a unit like Leadbelchers can be a little bit of an issue sometimes. But here they're going to start side-shotting right into Exalted Plague Bearers. Nothing too crazy so far, but the damage should get pretty real pretty quickly. The the penetration of the shots is really what gets so crazy, right? Because each shot is enough to deal significant HP damage. I don't think it's not even enough to one-shot a unit model necessarily of the Plague Bearers, but the fact that it hits multiple models on one go means it will do a ton of damage. Over here, big explosion spell from the Slaughtermaster. You don't see that super often, but the what is it even called? Not Bone Crusher, the Maw, of course, comes in, blasts 3 units of Plague Bearers here. Unfortunately, I don't think it'll save the Iron Guts from that engagement, but all the same, the Exalted Plague Bearer certainly also won't be saved. Leadbelcher's doing an absolute number there. Fury's going to charge in. He's got the Mournfangs on station. First, the Slug won't save the Furies as they're able to get in quickly and bail out their Belcher brethren. More Furies swooping in the side here, though. They're going to get some good damage there. The Mournfangs have a little bit of a tough time pulling through their big Ogre comrades. They're not going to get there in the most timely fashion on this second engagement, but looks like got some Rotflies also investing there. Try and win that engagement. Ogres decisively seize that objective, but here in the center, the Iron Guts were not able to hold out, unfortunately, and even the great spell Maw placement there did a lot of damage, but also, the Exalted Great and Clean One looks like it's going to do a little bit of a heal here in order to it looks like just a single cast of Fleshy Abundance. So, so far, so good. Got some more Ogres coming through, some Bowls, some Iron Fists, and whatnot. Yeah, the Leadbelchers, unfortunately, some of their shots are going to be hitting this tiny little line of trees as they fire into this blob. Otherwise, this would be a very ideal situation. They've got a pretty good angle here, but unfortunately, again, the trees will be blocking a small percentage of those shots. Still pretty real damage, though, as the Nobblers also get some friendly damage, just for good measure. Not going to be enough to push Nurgle off of this objective for the time being. You can see, though, that with the Exalted Great Unclean One being here in the center, Ogres making the right call. Glorious Feeder split pushing the side objective here, going for the capture on objective number 3. Meanwhile, the Leadbelchers still in a very secure, commanding position. Just need to figure out where they're going to shoot. We got Iron Fist defending with the Nobblers, Toad summoned in, coming in with some Nurglings on the side there. And the Exalted Great Unclean One's in a rough position. He's going to have to waddle between multiple objectives in order to win. But the Exalted Plague Bear should at least be able to hold for some time. Right now, the Ogre's kind of fanning out. These Nobblar Trappers drawing them fully out of position. Actually fully off of the objective, which is great, because then these bolts can come through and solo secure very quickly here without being contested at all. Although it looks like the Toads will contest eventually. I don't know if they'll be able to get there in time to save the cap. That's a good situation for Glorious Feeder. On the other side, the advancing Plague Bearers are getting blasted by those Leadbelchers. Cavalry also coming through and finishing them off. So looking pretty good over on this side. Also managed to catch up these Rotflies and more Plague Bears here in the center. So the question is, will they be able to cap? No, it looks like, unfortunately, for the Ogre Kingdoms, the Toads, the mass Toad reinforcement, they do count as cavalry, I believe, in terms of capture weight, which means that 2v1, they do outweigh the Ogre Bull, especially with them doing some pretty nice damage there. And this Iron Fist is not necessarily going to win. Exalted Plague Bears have so much HP, and they also do enough weapon damage that the Iron Fists won't necessarily win there. So this side push, unfortunately, Nurgle has enough defenses in the area to prevail, but now back to the center, right? With the Exalted Great Unclean One not being here, means that the Ogre Cavalry and Iron Fist can reinforce, try and quickly collapse these Plague Bears. Let's keep the health bar up as we watch this charge here. Nothing too crazy, honestly. And Miasma of Pestilence does come in, debuff their melee attack, so they will be near good in a sustained fight. Leadbelchers still online, though. They've got this whole kind of arc here completely covered. But again, the line of sight blockage is definitely working against them in this situation. They're not able to get a clean shot like on this Exalted Great Unclean One, for example. All three of them teeing off could bring him down in a reasonably decent time. Those hounds there being unsummoned, and another Maw spell being popped. Pops those Plague Bears, does some pretty good damage there, but honestly, I thought it would do more against the Rotflies. Interesting. Ogre Cavalry coming through once again, trying to block these Nurglings and other units from even getting to the objective in the first place. They're not the anti-large variant, though, so they're not going to trade as well into the Toads. Personally, I'm a fan of the Great Weapons, on both the Mournfangs and the Crushers, to be honest, to act as an anti-large kind of buffer. Here, they're going to have a lot of Toads to face. The Toads for the Nurgle player here, the Toad play has been very much on point. The Leadbelchers move through. They do get onto the objective to provide capture weight, make sure they can sustain. Glorious Feeder has a 2 cap, and if it hangs on to it, should be able to win here. Leadbelchers now also in this angle, getting some very nice damage on those Toads and Nurglings and whatnot. Really, these two, this is the story. Kind of focus the Exalted Great Unclean One as he does his little sumo kicks over here. Oof. A lot of damage. Definitely a lot of damage. How much will it actually end up mattering, though? We'll see. Is it actually a waste to attempt to snipe him, or would these guys be better off using their ammo, just dumping it all into the Plague Toads to actually kill models? It's really hard to say. If you can bring down the Great Unclean One, then it's great. But if you end up using a lot of ammo and time shooting at him and then don't kill him, then that's very bad, right? So definitely a risk reward, but it looks like right now the focus is enough to possibly bring him down. Fecundity has been popped by Nurgle player here to try and keep him sustained. That is also going to spread here to these Plague Bearers. It's going to spread over to Toads if he walks close enough to them. It looks like it did not actually spread, thankfully for the Ogres. But taking a look at the battlefield here, just got a couple of trappers defending over on the far side. This side, this unit of the Exalted Plague Bearers is still defending this objective as well, which is pretty hilarious, to be honest. And the Toad Blob fighting with the Exalted Great Unclean One. This is suddenly a pretty bad situation to be in, and a lot of the friendly fire that's missing, or sorry, the shots that are missing are doing friendly fire damage to those Mournfangs, which is unfortunate, but capture weight wise, there's not really enough ogres to sustain the capture weight here, and I mean, a lot of it is ranged monstrous infantry, which still has monstrous infantry capture weight, but also it's going to be vulnerable now that these melee units are starting to collapse. So yeah, Glorious Feeder had a nice 2-cap position, but unfortunately now is 2-capped back, right? Nurgle's got the 2-cap, I should say. Army damage value-wise, they're probably pretty close. Obviously, Nurgle's going to be healing and inflating that value a little bit, but let's see. They are neck and neck at this point, and a lot of resources left. Probably there are no units to summon in, or at least Glorious Feeder is maybe just saving to prepare for a big kind of concentrated push, which is definitely the right call. Over here, getting these Noblar Trappers, the Noblars, the Iron Guts all onto the objective. Noblar Trappers also probably could come forward and just help to capture a little bit here, but we'll see. Split push on the side objective once more, as there's no way you're getting through this. Look at this unholy blob. Look at this most disgusting of blobs. Nurglings, Plague Toads, Forsaken, and of course the big Exalted Chungus. Just stinking it up here in the center. And these poor Noblars. Oh man, these Noblars just holding against the unholy tide of Nurgle. They're definitely going to get pushed away, no question. And Glorious Feeder continuing to just kind of throw some distraction units here in the center to keep those guys in that position. And now this side objective here hasn't quite been secured, and he is going to need to probably go for a 3-cap. He's like right within the vicinity of needing to actually go for a 3-cap to get the win here. It is going to be very close, but I think he does actually need a 3-cap, so we'll see. Right now, Nurgle very commanding in the center. Lots and lots of stuff still relatively weak. If he had enough for an Overcast Fleshy Abundance, that would be truly vile and disgusting, but alas, we don't get to see either player's Winds of Magic either, which would be nice. A lot of little quality of life kind of UI updates they could do for replays and even live casting to improve things here. But anyway, Ogre Bulls charging through, trying to defend. Nurgle actually making a push on this side now, forcing a lot of these Ogre units onto the defensive and not allowing them to concentrate a lot of value to make sure they hold this objective, right? And also a lot of Nurgle units just coming forth from the center, trying to get on the spawn of the Ogres and just keep their units bottled up there. Like, those Furies can immediately jump on those Leadbelchers and stop them from finishing off the Great Unclean One. We're going to keep a wide view because there's a lot going on over here. Exalted Plague Bearers and Nurglings trying to defend, or rather attack, trying to retake that objective. This objective over here also being defended valiantly by the Ogre Kingdoms. The Slaughtermaster and his Bulls pretty safe at this point. There's not really enough stopping power to take them down. Exalted Chungus is coming over, but he is so low at this point. He's not nearly the same presence as he would otherwise be, and he might actually go down here. A couple of clutch Leadbelcher shots. No, they actually switch onto those Nurglings, and the crumbling damage, banishment damage is not enough to finish the big boy. So let's see. It's going to be super close, guys, but unfortunately, the red team, right, Nurgle, is closer to winning than Glorious Feeder's Ogres are to his score, right? He only needs about 400, whereas Glorious Feeder's about 500 behind. So given that math, you can kind of use that as a rule of thumb to determine, okay, Glorious Feeder would need a 3-cap here in order to actually win, and he is attempting that. You can see a bunch of summit units now going all in on the center. He's got some more Bulls. He's got some Saber Tusk Pack. These Noblars trying to get in on the side here as well. He understands he needs to get the 3-cap to actually win, and it's going to be very, very close. But let's see. This objective is well defended. No issues there. Those guys should be able to hold. This objective over here just barely holds. The Exalted Plague Bearers are not enough to actually maintain capture there. Saber Tusk Pack gets through on the center, but it's so close right now. these Nurglings and these Plague Bears, if they can just hang on for a little bit longer, we'll see. I mean, this is a lot of capture weight coming in, though. Bulls, the Leadbelchers, again, count as monstrous infantry. The Furies are going to try and keep them back, but Furies don't really have enough mass to do so. More Furies trying to keep these other Bulls back. The Trappers trying to get in there as well. You can see the Slaughtermaster trying to push through. The Rotflies are clutching, just holding him and these Bulls back as well. And look at this. It's so close, guys. It's so close. The capture is actually ticking up on this objective number 2, but it's not enough. A very, very tight victory for Nurgle, and a big thanks to Glorious Feeders for submitting that one. It was awesome. Some really nice Leadbelcher play, all of them getting insane value. The one that was summoned twice paid for itself 3 times, so that's great. The Iron Guts, again, personally, I mean, I get having the armor to help tank, but I think probably 1 is fine, and then you split the cost of the other 2 around like 3 extra Bulls, and just, you know, go in that way. Maybe have to cut 1 low tier Bull and just take another Saber Tusk pack in your reserve. But for me, at least, I just think having the extra capture weight and width would probably be more beneficial. But regardless, very, very good game, honestly. And Mournfang Cavalry, I kind of expected to get more value, but they definitely tactically contributed here. No question about that. Felt the Great Chungus, surprisingly enough, does not get a lot of value. Most of his value in this battle actually comes from just dishing out healing. Healing. Whereas a lot of the value actually comes from the infantry just grinding, which is kind of nice to see, honestly. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed watching this one. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.